Spring cleansing, seasonal tips for eating and living according to the spring season. Adapting to spring. Spring is my favorite time to cleanse. It is by far the most effective time to cleanse. From the end of March to June, the days grow longer and the earth begins to warm up. Flowers open to the sun. It's meant to be a time when the diet really lightens up and we start to use fresh fruits, vegetables, as they come into season. The activity increases and we shed the sedentary energy of winter. Like I said, spring is the best time to cleanse. The spring corresponds with the liver and the gallbladder. The liver is a part of us that is the planner. The gallbladder is the decision maker. It offers those qualities to us. So the liver is all about hope, new beginnings, new vision, seeing things newly and differently. So it's the perfect time for detoxification, really letting go of that which doesn't serve us anymore. So in the spring, the big food that we're going to really emphasize are greens, and more greens. So the liver, let's talk about the liver a little bit. The liver is located under the right ribs. It's sort of right under the ribs on the right side. It has many functions, but it has three main functions. It has a regenerative capacity. It helps us metabolize fat. It helps us detoxify, and it helps us make cholesterol. It's a very, very important organ. The reflex point, excuse me, is on the foot. The reflex point is on the foot, on the right foot. If you go up from the heel about midpoint or maybe 2/3 up the point, slightly to the right, if you press right there, you'll probably find a spot that's a little bit tender, and that's the liver. There's also something called liver lines. So when you see two strong lines right in the middle here, that can indicate that you've had some liver stress at some point. The liver also has a very strong relationship with PMS for women, fibroids. Whenever there's stagnation of energy, the liver controls what's called the smooth flow of qi, or energy. And when that gets stagnant, then sometimes tumors, growths, fibroids can occur. Hypoglycemia is an issue with the liver, chronic fatigue, and mood. Again, because if the energy is not flowing, it will really impact the mood. So the main liver functions are detoxification. It stores and secretes glucose, digests fat, and manufactures cholesterol. So what that means with the glucose is that the liver will store glycogen and then release that in the form of glucose when the brain or the body is needing sugar. So there's two phases of liver detoxification. The first phase is the liver breaks down toxins into things called metabolites. Phase 2 is it conjugates, or it grabs onto these metabolites to be removed from the body. So it's very important that both phases of liver detoxification are functioning properly, because if not, you may be breaking things down on metabolites but not clearing them from the body, and those metabolites are often more toxic than the original substance. So phase 1 detox includes things like prescription drugs, bacteria and their byproducts, insecticides, pesticides, caffeine and alcohol, exhaust fumes, trans fatty acids and saturated fats, charbroiled meats. It's the first run-through that breaks toxins down. Phase 2, aspirin, nicotine, birth control pills, estrogen, so hormones. Phase 2 is very important for estrogen. Carcinogens, sulfates, and food preservatives. It conjugates broken down toxins and removes them from the body. So what are some inhibitors of phase 1 detoxification? Most antidepressants, like Centrax, Librium, Prozac, Valium, those drugs can inhibit phase 1 detoxification. Antihistamines can do that. So in the spring, a lot of people are taking antihistamines for allergies. Now, from a Chinese medicine perspective, one of the big reasons we get allergies is because it relates to the liver. So then we're taking a medicine that's interfering with liver detox. So it's always wiser to see if we can do a cleanse, cleanse the liver, and most people find that their allergy symptoms are drastically diminished when you eat really clean in the spring. So stomach acid blocking drugs also inhibits phase 1 liver detox. Grapefruit juice is an important one to know about, can also do that. So you don't want to be taking a grapefruit juice with your medication. Bowel toxins from leaky gut can get in the liver and inhibit liver detox. Both phases are stimulated by foods coming from the brassica family. Cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, really important in the spring. So liver and gallbladder are the organs. We're going to talk about it from the Chinese medicine perspective. The season is spring, related to the spring. The element is wood. The emotion of the spring, of the liver gallbladder, is anger. When we say anger, we don't necessarily just mean rage or anger. We mean the power that we have to assert ourselves. When that power is repressed, sometimes we can become rageful. When we become very weak in that energy, then we become very meek, or people can walk all over us. So that has to do with the liver energy. When we can assert ourselves, we can be creative, we can have vision about our lives. So that's really what, when the Chinese talk about anger, it's not just about getting mad, it's about getting clear on what you want, and that's liver energy. So the spring is a very important time to reevaluate what's important in your life and where you want to go. And then one of the best ways to do that is to really do a cleanse. The mind will start functioning much, much better. The time of day is between 11 p.m. at night and 3 a.m. in the morning. A lot of people who have liver issues will literally wake up between 2 and 3 in the morning because the liver is working really hard. The taste is sour, so sour taste stimulates the liver, supports the liver. The correspondences are the eyes. When the liver is suffering, the eyes will decrease in power. Ligaments, tendons, and planning and decision making. The wood element has to do with, like I said, our identity, our self, self-assertion, creativity, hope, seeing possibility, rebirth, spring. We think of spring as a time of new possibilities, and that's exactly what the liver energy is all about. Planning and decision making is the power of the wood element. It's the empowered in the spring, seeing what you want in life and making decisions as you go along on how to get there. So it's about vision with the eyes, but it's also about our inner vision. A nice metaphor, the tree that they use as a metaphor in Chinese medicine is a willow tree. Roots going deep into the earth, but the leaves and branches reaching for the sky at the same time. So having roots is the planning, and the trees are reaching for the vision in their dreams. The liver regulates blood flow. It moistens the eyes. It controls what's called smooth flow of qi. So that has to do with how the energy is flowing through us, whether it's in physical in terms of digestion power, whether it's how our muscles are flowing, it's whether how loose our ligaments are, or how adaptable our joints in our body can be. And it also is very important in purifying the blood. The liver is, like I said, has to do with planning, and our rootedness has to do with grounding. It's about seeing the whole picture. Now, if our liver energy is weak, then we tend to be aimless or have tunnel vision, have little vision to sort of see creatively or openly, or possibly having blind faith, not really wanting to think clearly about something. No inner vision, the inability to plan, or feeling hopeless. The gallbladder is sort of the sidekick of the liver. It's the yang organ of the wood element, and it's the partner of the liver. On a mental, emotional level, the gallbladder empowers us in the area of decision making and judgment. So it also has to do with digesting fat. The gallbladder is all about justice, action, flexibility, decisiveness, decision making, creativity, determination, courage. And you've heard the saying, or having gall, that person had a lot of gall. That relates to gallbladder. You know, having a lot of gall means they have a lot of guts to do that. So the gallbladder is about being decisive. So when the gallbladder is suffering, maybe somebody has gallstones, or they're having some illness in the gallbladder area, it tends to reflect in an inability to make decisions, not being able to be clear, not being decisive, not being clear, not knowing, procrastinating, being ambivalent, feeling inadequate or inflexible, or making bad decisions in general. So I want to talk a little bit about fatty acids for a minute, because the liver and the gallbladder are so much involved in metabolizing fat. So fat is essential. There's 20 fatty acids needed by the body, and omega-3 and omega-6 are fatty acids that are not produced by the body, so we need to eat them. Arachidonic, linoleic, and linolenic acid are parts of the omega-3 and omega-6. They must be obtained through the diet. It's very important. So they're the building blocks of the cell membranes. The cell membranes of the body are made up of these fatty amino acids. They're also needed to absorb fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, K, which are all extremely important for the immune system, the bones, and the health in general. They have to do with hormone production and prostaglandins, which help make the hormones. Needed for cholesterol production of the body. Cholesterol is a good thing, actually. Too much of it, when it's in a bad condition, is not a good thing. But we need cholesterol. We need it because it's what helps repair and make the cell walls of our body. So it's essential. 50% of our nerve tissue and brain is made up of essential fatty acids. It can be anti-inflammatory and can aid in blood clotting. It's needed by the heart and the immune system. But when we eat bad fats, when we overheat our fats, we create what's called trans fatty acids. A natural shape of an essential fatty acid, it has a curve to it. The trans fat is when you overheat it, it basically stiffens and straightens up. So now we're putting these unhealthy fatty acids into our tissues, and we're making cells that aren't healthy. We're making cholesterol that's not healthy. We're making linings of our cardiovascular system that's not healthy. So it's really important to eat healthy fat. So you don't want to expose your fats to high temperatures because it oxidizes and causes free radical damage. This may contribute to cancer and heart disease. So eating oxidized fats, there's lots of literature out there that argues that bad fats are a significant cause to serious immune and heart and cancer issues. 25% of these trans fats are in refined oils, and 50% of margarine and shortening is made out of trans fats. Now in the spring, we really try to minimize our intake of fat. So using chia seeds or flax seeds or a little bit of essential fatty acids and nutritionally is a fine idea. But in the spring, we really minimize it, because what we want to do is we want the body to start going after our own stored fat and using that as energy. And one of the best ways to do that is by eating a lot of greens and taking liver-supporting herbs, and then your body will go after its stored fat. Best time to lose weight. It's very important because you're also detoxifying the fat stores of toxins. By releasing that fat, you can then also release the toxins that have been stored in your body all winter. So allergies is really big in the spring. It's the time we associate allergies with most is in the spring. Trees are blooming, pollen is airborne, sniffling and sneezing begins. 35 million Americans live with seasonal allergies or hay fever every spring. It's associated with what's called a kapha imbalance in Ayurveda. And kapha, the spring, is a very kapha time. In one sense, you think about it, the ice is melting from winter, so it's a very damp time. There's a lot of mud. And the metaphor is also there's a lot of mud inside of us that we're letting go of. So it's very important to detoxify. So the spring, we tend to have a lower digestive power. We have a poor lymphatic movement. So we want to decrease that phlegm, that extra mucus that is built up in the winter, and we want to eliminate it. So seasonal detoxification is the main way to bring the body back into balance. It's done through anti-mucus forming diets, elimination diets, and the Healing Essence Total Life Cleanse. So immunity and allergy-related factors. Health of the gut is related to allergies. So purifying and cleansing the gut is very important. Certain things that affect allergies in the gut have been shown are things like C-section, formula feeding, babies that have been fed formula feeding as opposed to breastfeeding. Antibiotics, the broad spectrum antibiotics can wreak havoc on the gut and the healthy flora and bacteria in the gut. An inflammatory diet, foods that cause inflammation, which is basically the standard American diet. Stomach acid suppression, meaning taking drugs that stop acid. Stopping acid is really a Band-Aid approach to the problem. It's usually a weakness in the digestion that needs to be handled. Chronic stress, like I said, altered microflora, so the use of probiotics is very beneficial. Allergies increase the intestinal permeability, worsening allergy reactions. That means that inflammation in the gut, there's toxins that leak in the blood, now the body is dealing with more toxins, and the body will do anything it can to get stuff out. One place it comes out is the nose and the lungs. Accumulations of winter creates internal stagnation and phlegm. So the winter, we're holding on to stuff. The spring is all about letting it go. Now, fructose, just on a side here, and corn syrup are two things that are very challenging for the gut. Corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, is one of the worst substances we can actually be eating for our intestines. It kind of creates an explosion of energy in the intestines and starts to wear away the lining of the gut, which again, like I said before, impacts allergies in the immune system. Vitamin D is very important. Lung function is very important. We need more vitamin D, especially in the cold climates, in the winter and the spring. Spring diets and tips. So the spring is really nature's new year. We're no longer needing the moistening, fatty, and building foods of winter. It's time to really decrease dietary fat, burn fat, eliminate toxins, and decrease accumulated dampness or kapha and stagnation of the winter. The spring is damp and thawing out, like I mentioned. Seeds are germinating in the soil for the future, and we're not meant to continue eating rich, oily, fatty winter foods. Greens are the best. So we want to antidote with cool, bitter, astringent veggies and leafy greens. Taper off of the sweet foods, the heavy foods, the oils, the nuts, the high protein foods. Body in spring wants to cleanse. Beneficial light, warm foods, and again, avoid the heavy, oily. Spicy, bitter, astringent foods, avoiding sweet, salty, and sour. The heavy, damp foods, sugar and dairy. If there's one time of the year to avoid both of them, it is the spring. We should avoid them all 4 seasons, but the spring especially, super important. If you continue to eat heavy, sweet dairy foods in the spring, you're going to really gain weight in the spring. The allergies are going to be horrible. You'll probably get toxicity reactions, depression, fatigue, muscle pain, headaches, irritability will likely occur, and you won't have a very fun summer either. So we're going from a cold to a heavy season. They were building early in winter, holding on in midwinter, and now you're releasing those energies in spring. I think I've explained that pretty clearly. So you really want to melt those toxins out of your body in the spring. It's ideal for cleansing. Again, lots of greens, arugula, dandelion, endive, cabbage, collard greens, radish, chilies, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, and you're going to minimize the watery vegetables like tomatoes, zucchini, cucumbers, and sweet potatoes in the spring. The berries are wonderful. The blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, cherries, dried fruits. Dried fruits, the one time a year that dried fruits are actually pretty good is the spring. Pears and apples are okay. Minimize the heavy fruits, the sweet fruits, heavy and watery, such as bananas, oranges, figs, avocados, coconuts, and melons. Not so ideal in the spring. Beans are all good. Tofu in moderation. Grains are beneficial. Corn, barley, buckwheat, rye, millet, basmati rice, amaranth, quinoa, all are very good in the spring. Nuts and seeds are beneficial, but you want to minimize the heavy ones. So chia seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin, sunflower, and a few almonds are fine, but you want to minimize the heavy ones like cashews and Brazil nuts and things like that. Spices all are good, but minimize salt in the spring. You want to minimize all the oils, sunflower, ghee, coconut in moderation. There's a wonderful Ayurvedic formula called Triphala made up of 3 substances, which is very cleansing and clearing for the intestines, It lubricates the intestines, it takes away excess heat in the intestines, and it also releases excess toxins in the intestines. So that's a wonderful herb to use in the spring. Gymnema, for those of you that have sugar issues, gymnema is a wonderful Ayurvedic herb that regulates blood sugar and cravings. And if you really have a sugar issue, all you got to do is put some gymnema on your tongue, and you won't be able to taste sugar for about an hour after you do that. Trikatu is a nice Ayurvedic herbal formula made out of certain types of pepper, and it aids in metabolism, it reduces kapha, and it's used for weight loss also. Neem is a wonderful spring herb, and it destroys sweet cravings and eliminates parasites. Ginger improves digestion and circulation. Ginger you can basically use every season. It's an amazing, amazing spice. Cardamom harmonizes digestion. Turmeric purifies the blood, great for the liver. It actually increases something called glutathione, helps your body make glutathione, which is the most powerful antioxidant that the body makes. Dandelion greens, awesome in the spring. The best thing you can be eating in the spring. Some people will go out in their backyard. As long as you don't fertilize your grass, if there's dandelion growing out there, the greens, take that and put it in your salads. So there's a couple of nice teas that you can write down. I'll say them right here, but the ama or toxin clearing teas are made with a teaspoon of fennel, half a teaspoon of coriander, half a teaspoon of cumin, and 1 quart of boiled water, and just sip that through the day. That's a very cleansing, nourishing tea. You can also use ginger, ama clear tea, which is 1 quart of warm water, a tablespoon of raw honey, 1 fresh lemon or lime, and a half a teaspoon of fresh grated ginger. And remember, the honey always has to be raw, 100% raw. So exercise is really important, lifestyle practices for the spring. A brisk daily exercise, walking, hiking, biking, be outside if you can, but machines are okay. Increase your lung capacity in the spring. 30 minutes daily is ideal, especially during the cleanse. Yoga and pranayama exercises, meaning breathing exercises, excellent. We love the sun salutations, they're great exercises. The 5 rights, the 7 tigers, these are all on videos. Follow flowing poses to support the lung, stomach, and liver energy. Reduces kapha and supports the liver. The neti pot, again, important in the spring. Oleation and dry brushing, wonderful. You want to get the lymphatic system really moving. You want to drain the sinuses also in the spring. The cleanse is just so essential in the spring. And it's also a great time to let go of what I call mental ama. That builds up in the winter because you want to clear your mind so you can think about how you want the new year to be. Like we said, that spring is nature's new year. How the next 4 seasons, how you want them to unfold for you. You need a clear vision for that. So one of the things that we do in the cleanse is the liver flush. And in a previous video, we described the liver flush, but the liver flush helps to increase bile flow and helps the liver to detoxify. So I really do recommend a liver flush this time of year. So that's it for the spring. And enjoy the cleanse.